episode 3. Long time. Last episode wasn't bad in any means, but I was kind of indifferent, you know? It was just kind of like, you know? Like, very pretty episode, very gorgeous episode, but I'm gonna go play the game for that, thank you very much. But talk about surprises, alright? If you want to talk about surprises, talk about curveballs. This is the biggest curveball episode I've ever seen, alright? This episode takes me back to that, like, Fly episode, alright? Turning gay, alright? Fly episode, gay. Random as fuck, but still good. No cold opens this time, sadly. We start this episode quiet and somber after I lost last episode. Joel cools his broken hand in the river. He also makes a little stone cairn for the memory of Tess. These two loved each other in their own way, I'd say. Even if it wasn't very intimate, they were partners. Also, brother, 10 miles west of Boston, my asshole. Look at this gorgeous ass scenery, dude. Look at this.
It's beautiful.
This is something I hike through. You're trying to tell me this is right outside of Boston? It's a little awkward between these two. Joel let Ellie use his jacket during the night, though. Cute. Joel is distant and cold, but Ellie isn't taking it. She tells him not to blame her for something that isn't her fault. Ellie isn't taking shit. They go on quite the scenic hike, making some small talk. Ellie notices a scar on Joel's head that honestly I still have trouble seeing on his little noggin there. I don't see a scar, bro. She asks how he got it. He says some guy shot him and missed. They see a crashed plane. Ellie geeks out over the thought of the previous generations being able to fly. The older gens, it was taken for granted back then. For people like Ellie, who were born after the apocalypse, something like flying seems otherworldly. Ellie starts asking about how did it all happen, and we get a little bit more context. I kept these details away from you just in case anyone who hasn't watched the season yet in the previous videos, but do you remember every time I mentioned a product with flour in it in the first episode? The pancakes, the cake, the cookies that Joel and Sarah just luckily avoided? Well, that's how the infection spread so fast. We got a good hint in the flashback in episode 2, but confirmation here, the flour was tainted. And once it hit the shelves and people bought it, it spread like wildfire. And Joel and Sarah just narrowly avoided every single time they were offered. They tried to get like a flour-based product. Joel stops Ellie, tries to get her to cut across the field, avoiding the road. But curious Ellie just needs to go see what Joel is hiding up there on the road.
Yo, come on, man.
Little things like this show Joel, big bad Joel, does care about this kid. He doesn't want her to see the mass graves from Fedra. They evacuated the small town, sending everyone to QZs. If there was room, that is. If there wasn't room, well, better dead than infected, I guess. Good lord. We jump all the way back to 2003, when Fedra was rounding people up. Someone with cameras is watching the soldiers, rounding everyone up onto trucks to their deaths. Can you guess who it is, baby? Oh, baby, our man, the legend, Ron Swanson.
Another, please.
It's basically the same character. You can switch Ron Swanson and this fucker Bill, same exact character, okay? Our paranoid Alex Jones motherfucker, Bill. Bill was well prepared for this outbreak and is basically my Project Zomboid character. He takes all the gas from the gas station, loots the Home Depot liquor stores. This guy is an absolute legend. After his whole town was evacuated, he had it all to himself, making traps and fences that protected him. He grows his own food. A man of culture, I must say. Now, I will say this, okay? I will give you a big warning. The rest of this episode is all about Bill. We don't see Joel and Ellie until the end of this episode. It's all about Bill. It's the biggest curveball there is, dude. I was not expecting this at all. One of his sensors goes off, so he has to check what the hell triggered his alarm. This maniac has pits scattered throughout his property, and one poor son of a gun fell in one. He immediately yells out to Bill and talks to him, and he comes off as charismatic right away. This is our boy Frank. Bill and Frank. Now this is wacky. We've never seen Frank alive in the game. I'll spoil it, you know, because Game Frank and Show Frank have wildly different outcomes. Frank is already dead when we find him. So seeing him breathing here, it's weird, dude. It's kind of weird. Frank, with his 10 plus charisma, convinces Bill to allow him to stay for dinner. Bill lets him take a shower even, and gives him fresh clothes. Bill is awkward, like one of those like blue-collar dads who doesn't know how to really talk to their kids, you know? Frank is astonished at how well Bill has been off throughout all of this whole thing, you know? Frank points out how Bill knows how to pair food and wine. He compliments Bill, saying like he seems like the type to know a thing or two about a thing or two, you know what I'm saying? And they have a lovely dinner together. Frank makes an excuse to stay a little longer. He points out the piano in the room. He starts playing the damn piano. Bill stops Frank, and Frank insists Bill to play then. Didn't Ron Swanson have a secret identity as a jazz musician? This really is. They just copied Parks and Rec. You know, they copied their homework and just changed it a little bit. Like, yeah, dog, just change it a little bit. All right, change the homework a little bit so the teacher won't notice. Make them gay. Frank asks who's the girl that Bill's singing about. He responds,
There is no girl.
Frank puts a hand on Bill's shoulder. He says, I know. And they kiss. How cute. They even do the naughty. Bill has been an awkward little butterfly this whole time, so Frank asks, have you done this before? Bill's response is, no, only once, with a girl a long time ago. Bill is vulnerable. He probably never had this kind of connection with a man, like, ever. You know, like, never. And finding it literally in the apocalypse, the most important time to find somebody like Frank, someone to have that kind of connection with. What are the odds, you know? Out of all times to find somebody like that, it's beautiful. You know, it's beautiful. It is beautiful. Hey, it sounds wild, okay? But hear me out. Find somebody to be your rock. You know, to be your pillar. In the most times of need, you know, the apocalypse, you know, is insanely helpful. Finding somebody like a Tess, finding somebody like a Frank, finding somebody to ground you. And what's a bigger time of need than the apocalypse, you know? Now, I do have a few problems with this whole thing in regards to the game. I'll talk about it towards the end of the video. However, this story is very beautiful. Bill and Frank is a loving story in otherwise a horrific world. And then we make a skip to 3 years, and they're arguing like a married couple. Frank wants to spruce things up in the town that they live in, making it more lively, of course. Bill is more of a practical kind of man, and they bicker over it. Frank says, paying attention to things is how we show love. And God damn it, that might be my favorite quote in this season. I can be a little bit of a sap sometimes, alright? That line is just poetic. Frank wants to have friends. He doesn't want to live like a hermit all of his life. He says that he already contacted a woman on the radio.
You what?
And you can guess who that is. It's Tess. A younger Joel, and Tess comes and visits. Both Joel and Bill are a bit prickly. We see just how long Tess and Joel have been together. Damn, Joel really lost his anchor, huh? So at what point did Joel and Tommy run around together in this timeline? That's a question for later, I suppose. I don't want to dive too deep into it, but if my timeline is correct, that is 3 years into the apocalypse, and Joel is already in the QZ? When did Joel and Tommy run together? You gamers out there know what I'm talking about. I'm not sure if I want to dig deeper into that right now, probably in a couple of episodes from now, but we'll see. As I'm literally typing this, hang on, I made an edit, okay? I'm an idiot and missed a time jump in between the start of the pandemic and Bill meeting Frank. Sorry. If this confuses anyone, let me make the timeline right now, okay? The timeline right now is in 2003, right at the start. Then 4 years goes by with Bill by himself, building his entire town. The fences, traps, all of that. He meets Frank. Then another 3 years go by, so we're at 2010, and that's when he meets Joel. And that makes way more sense now, okay? And now we make another jump. We're in 2013 now. Frank is trying to get Bill to stay in shape. Frank has a surprise for Bill. He's been growing strawberries. This is adorable. Aww. Bill says,
I was never afraid before you showed up.
and raiders come in the night. They try to break in. Bill's traps work decently well, actually. But fucking Bill, for some reason, is standing out there in the middle of the damn street shooting at them like a doofus. All those survival skills didn't train you to duck and cover, you doofus. Doofus Brains ends up getting shot. Frank brings Doofus into the house, and all I'm thinking about is that scene where Ron Swanson gets shot while hunting. in the middle of Frank tending to Bill's wounds, he tells him to call Joel. Call Joel. He'll take care of you, he says. Bill recognizes the protective nature of Joel. He sees a similarity between him and Joel. Bill may be a hateful bastard, but he respects him. But Bill survives. Another time skip. 10 years. I think now we're all caught up with the timeline. Frank is wheelchair bound. They're old men now. Frank paints in his time. Frank has a disease that we're not privy to. However, it does look like a mess. Frank has to take pills, probably through trade with Joel. Bill helps Frank to bed. Bill wakes up to Frank sitting in his wheelchair. Sneaky bastard slithered his way all up in there. They fight, but Frank tells Bill that he doesn't want to live anymore. He's ready. He's lived, probably better than his normal life pre-apocalypse, honestly. It sounds like they had an entire town they just lived their entire lives in the apocalypse, just kind of secluded away. It's kind of great, actually, and he's ready. He's ready to go. Bill obviously is in denial. Like, what if we find a doctor? It's been like 20-something years, bro. Frank wants to spend one last day with him, get married, and go out ODing on pills in his wine. God damn. This episode sucker punched me. It came out of nowhere, man. And with a beautiful soundtrack, these two old men spend one last day together. They get married, they have dinner together, grabbing the pills and dosing Frank's cup. Frank drinks his cup, ready to pass on from life. Bill also drinks a cup right after Frank. Frank, reading Bill like he always has, realizes that Bill already laced that wine before pouring. Bill says he's old and satisfied, that Frank was his purpose. They share a laugh together in their fleeting moments, then they proceed to go to bed one last time together. What an episode. It's not over yet, but damn. I guess now we know why that song was sent out back in episode 1. Now we finally go back to Joel and Ellie. They arrive to Bill and Frank's. Joel sees the flowers outside dead, knowing something is wrong. Ellie finds a letter left by Bill. Joel doesn't want to read the letter. He just wants to know whether or not they're dead. Now, before you see this next part, I do want to complain just a little bit. This whole part of the story was not in the game whatsoever. We meet Bill. Bill's still alive. He's a lunatic who's trapped up a whole town. He talks to himself, and it's not pleasant to be around. Frank, in fact, left his ass. Ends up hanging himself, I think, due to a bite, if I remember correctly. Nowhere near the same story. I'm saying this because every character that you meet throughout the game on Joel and Ellie's journey is an example of possible outcomes for Joel. If Joel doesn't correct his path and continues to push away people, he'll end up like Bill, and that is just one of the outcomes, possible outcomes for Joel. That isn't the story here, though, and I have to come to terms with that. It's a little weird, but listen to this letter here. Listen to the letter.
So I'm gonna tell you something because you're probably the only person who'll understand. I used to hate the world and I was happy when everyone died. But I was wrong, because there was one person worth saving. That's what I did. I saved him. Then I protected him. That's why men like you and me are here. We have a job to do. And God help any motherfuckers who stand in our way. I leave you all of my weapons and equipment. Use them to keep...
Now after that, I see that they're coming at this from a different angle. You see Joel's face, that line, because there was someone worth saving. So that's what I did. I saved him, I protected him. Joel saved Ellie, now he's gonna protect Ellie. It's a different angle that I do not hate, though it was wild to see such a radical different take. Bill mentions Tess in the letter. He says to use his weapons to protect her. It hits a nerve. Joel tells Ellie to never bring up Tess. It's sad because they actually never do after this. We never hear about Tess ever again. Really, I don't remember any other time Tess is brought up between these two. Now, the plan to get to Tommy. He used to be a Firefly, so maybe he'll know what to do with Ellie. It's a long ride out to Wyoming. Ellie finds a cute little gun that she stashes away in her pack. The episode ends with the two of them hopping in Bill's truck and driving away. Oh, Ellie's brain melts being in a car for the first time. It's so cute. It's a beautiful episode that came out of nowhere. Is it anything like the game? No, not at all. Do they keep the spirit of Last of Us? I guess so? I don't know. It's a wild card. It's you either love it or you're like, whoa, what the? It's very polarizing, I'd say. I did love this episode through and through. I think it's a very beautiful story. A very capsulated story in the overall season. Let me know how you feel about it. I'm actually kind of curious. Anyways, I will see you all later.